I want to ask you today if you can remember a time when you felt frustrated, angry, hurt, or overwhelmed, any of these emotional kind of triggers by events that are going on outside of you, you know, and it's natural because we are affected by our environment. And so much of that, what goes on in our environment, is actually out of our hands. And what I want to talk to you about today is how we can free ourselves. I look around me and I see, it breaks my heart. I see so much unhappiness and so much conflict between people because, they're feeling deeply hurt or emotionally charged in some way because of events that are happening outside of themselves. And the thing is, what I've found is that so much of our emotional experience is actually created through habits and through where we place our focus and our perception. When I say habits, I mean habits of thinking and habits of relationship. And it's kind of like once there's been a negative interaction between two people, often you'll find that becomes a repeating habit in that relationship. So today, we're not actually trapped by these cycles. And that's what I want to share with you, because I want to see you liberate yourself from the sense of disempowerment that comes when, we push, we feel crappy about something and we push for something outside of us to change, something that's outside of our power. And the more we try and push for that external factor to change, it's almost as though the more deeply embedded our own pain can become. It kind of repeats that pattern. And the thing is, this has actually been scientifically shown, reflected. Dr. Joe Dispenza, there's another scientist, Dr. Candace Pert, and they've both written really great books about how we develop these habits of behavior and these habits of perception, which then continue to create our life. And then we spend our lives trying to change circumstances in the outside world, all the while being trapped in the same repetitive emotional patterns and disempowerment. So I just want to share with you a story about how this played out for me. And, I'm going to keep this to the level of how we relate to other people. But it can also relate to how we experience the world stage. So my dad is an amazing person. He's just a great human. But, as is so often with family members, we develop certain sensitivities and, we'll tend to be more easily triggered by those who are closest to us. And so I remember there was this one time, and my dad was always trying to help me. And he was actually giving me feedback. I was running an event and, it was going to be a great workshop. I was really excited to deliver it. And he started giving me some what we'd say pointers. But it was feedback about what I should be doing, how I should be running things, how to manage the process. And at the time when he was saying this, I was so deeply triggered. I was so deeply hurt because to me, it was as though he saw that I was incapable. He was telling me that I couldn't do it on my own. It was triggering for me in so many ways that bringing up this sense of inadequacy, or that he saw that I wasn't good enough to do this and that I couldn't do it on my own and that he knew better. And one of so this brought up a lot of stuff. So I got really angry, and I don't often get angry. This is a little while ago, and I got very upset, and I wanted him to just stop talking. I just wanted to cut him off, and we have a very open and my family have pretty good communicators. And very emotionally, I just tried to shut him down. I just didn't want to hear these words because they were hurtful and and upsetting for me. And so it was actually interesting. Obviously, that wasn't a fun conversation. But we got off that call and it gave me the opportunity to reflect. So instead of getting off the call and hating on Dad because he'd been trying to help me in the way that he knows how. I got off the call and I sort of asked, why did I react so strongly to him trying to help me in that way? And I'm going to go into, 3 ways that you can counter or you can transcend these kind of emotional triggers. But before I do, I just want to share that, moving on a few years down the track, a number of years down the track, and I no longer need Dad to change. I actually can see and acknowledge his deepest desire for my own well-being, and that he has his own way of expressing that. It's not, I no longer take it on as being an attack on me or as being something that triggers my inadequacy in any way. And this is as a result of being able to do this work. So I have the most amazing relationship with my dad now. I think so anyway. And if he does start to, offer advice or just try and help me in ways that may have previously been upsetting, I'm able to notice it or notice the potential for me to respond and instead switch gear. And I can switch out of that reactive me, out of the wounded me that would have been triggered by it, and instead step into a receptive me. And, maybe I want to take it on board, maybe I don't. But at the end of the day, it's now back within my power. So my power has been restored in terms of how I'm experiencing myself and my relationship. So if this sounds like a relatable situation, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love, drop in the comments or share or reach out, because this is the work that's life-changing. When we shift the way we experience ourselves and the power that we give away, to stop giving away our power, things can, life is just so much more enriching, so much more fulfilling. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do when you're stuck in a moment and you're either fighting against this emotional trigger, this external factor, which is really triggering, first thing to do is just pause. And, Viktor Frankl said that our real power lies between the stimulus and our reaction, and that's where we pause. And so when we pause, we can then go into step 2, which is asking ourselves, what am I making it mean? Because what I'm making it mean isn't necessarily what they mean. Or, and I know this is in other scenarios I've encountered with clients, what I'm making it mean, or what I'm making it mean is seen through the filter of my own pain and trauma. What that person is saying is occurring through the filter of their own pain and trauma. So if I'm able to pause, step back and perhaps hold some compassion for the space that the other person is coming from. And this is when we have the family dynamic of just consistently attacking each other. And if there's not and because of this habit that I've talked about, what will happen is that even when someone's not attacking them, they will perceive it as an attack because it's become such a common expectation. So step 1, pause. Stop yourself from jumping back into the old habitual reaction. And then we go, number 2 is, what's the meaning that I'm giving this? What's the frame? What's the mental picture? What's the narrative that I'm writing about this? And what narrative would I prefer to write? What's a more empowered narrative? Because when we fight and argue and struggle against something, it gives it power. So when we continue to engage in these painful relationship dynamics, continues to feed into that as being the truth of something. Whereas really we're creating our world and we're creating our truth every moment by moment. And so the third thing is gratitude and surrender. Gratitude for the awareness, gratitude for the capacity to rise above, and, surrender is such a key piece. Surrender and acceptance. When we can surrender and accept what is without forcing ourselves against it without spending our energy, disempowering ourselves by expecting something to be different than what it is. And instead we look at our internal landscape and look at how we can shift the way we're interacting with this, then we transform the experience. But it's quite profound. And, you know, a big piece of this, I love the term metacognition. So just remind yourself, so if we have cognition, which is our understanding and our experience, or thoughts about our experience, if we're able to go into the space beyond that, into the observer of our thoughts and the experience, we can step back, we can step out of judgment, we can surrender to what is, and formulate a more empowered pathway to responding to events which might otherwise simply keep perpetuating this emotionally triggered and unhappy state. So to finish, when we externalize the source of our pain, we give our power away. But when we draw back the truth, which is that something is only painful because of the way that I'm reacting to it. Obviously, you know, we have physical bodies which experience pain, but emotionally and mentally, something's only painful because of the filter of wounding through which it occurs. So my beautiful souls, hope this has served. I'd love to hear from you, and peace.